The file lay heavy on Detective Miller's desk, its faded label a stark reminder of the unsolved case that had haunted him for years. The name George Napier meant nothing to most, but to Miller, it represented a life cut short, a family torn apart by grief, and a question that gnawed at his conscience. Who could commit such a heinous act and vanish without a trace? The case had gone cold years ago, the leads drying up like rainwater in a desert. But Miller refused to let it fade into obscurity. He believed that every victim deserved justice, no matter how much time had passed. The murder of George Napier had sent shockwaves through the quiet town of Ridgewood. A pillar of the community, Napier was known for his kindness, his generosity, and his unwavering commitment to justice. His brutal murder in his own home, a place meant to be a sanctuary, had shattered the town's peace and left its residents living in fear. The initial investigation had been intense, with every officer working tirelessly to find the perpetrator. They followed every lead, interviewed countless individuals, and meticulously combed through every piece of evidence. But the killer, like a phantom, had left no trace, leaving behind only a trail of unanswered questions and a community scarred by the brutality of the crime. Years turned into a decade, and the case grew colder with each passing season. Leads ran dry, witnesses' memories faded, and the weight of unsolved cases piled higher on the desks of the Ridgewood Police Department. The file on George Napier, once a symbol of urgency, became another unsolved case, a grim reminder of the limitations of the justice system. The town slowly began to heal, the initial shock fading into a dull ache of collective memory. But for Detective Miller, the case remained an open wound, a constant reminder of a promise he had made to himself and to the memory of George Napier, to never give up on the search for truth. The passage of time, however, had brought with it advancements in forensic technology, offering a glimmer of hope in the seemingly impenetrable darkness of the Napier case. Miller knew that the answers he sought were hidden somewhere in the evidence, waiting for the right tool to unlock them. He spent countless hours poring over the original case files, studying crime scene photographs, and re-interviewing witnesses, determined to find the missing piece of the puzzle that would lead him to the killer. The weight of the unsolved case, the memory of the victim, and the hope of bringing closure to a grieving family fueled his determination, turning him into a man obsessed with uncovering the truth. The house stood on a hill overlooking the town, its once bright facade now weathered and worn like a faded memory. It had been Napier's sanctuary, a place where he spent his evenings reading by the fireplace, the scent of old books mingling with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. Now it stood as a silent witness to a brutal crime, its walls holding secrets that only the dead could tell. The air around the house was heavy with a palpable silence, broken only by the rustling of leaves and the distant chirping of crickets. As Miller approached the house, a shiver ran down his spine. The crime scene tape had long been removed, but the memories lingered, etched in the very fabric of the place. He could almost hear the echo of his own footsteps from that fateful night, the frantic calls for backup, and the collective gasp of horror when they discovered Napier's body. The house seemed to absorb the sounds, holding onto them like a morbid souvenir. Stepping inside, Miller was transported back in time. The air was stale and thick with dust, the furniture draped in white sheets, frozen in time. The once vibrant living room, where Napier had entertained friends and family, was now a ghostly tableau of a life abruptly ended. An overturned lamp lay on the floor, its shade askew, casting long, eerie shadows across the room. The scent of decay, though faint, still lingered in the air, a grim reminder of the violence that had unfolded within those walls. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of Miller's own breathing and the pounding of his heart. He walked slowly through the house, his eyes scanning every detail, searching for any clue that might have been overlooked, any thread that could lead him to the killer. Each room told a story, a silent testament to the life that was lived and the tragedy that had struck. The dining room with its long empty table spoke of family dinners and shared laughter. The study with its shelves lined with books and legal documents whispered tales of a brilliant legal mind. And finally, the bedroom, where Napier had drawn his last breath, stood as a chilling reminder of the fragility of life. The initial investigation had been a whirlwind of activity. Police officers swarmed the house and the surrounding area, their movements a blur of blue uniforms and flashing lights. Every neighbor, friend, and acquaintance of George Napier was questioned, their statements meticulously recorded and analyzed. The investigation team, led by the seasoned Detective Johnson, worked tirelessly, determined to bring the perpetrator to justice. The pressure was immense. The town held its breath, demanding answers, demanding justice. The evidence, however, was frustratingly scant. The killer had been meticulous, leaving behind no fingerprints, no weapon, and no apparent motive. The only clues were the signs of a struggle and the brutality of the murder itself, suggesting a crime fueled by personal rage rather than a random act of violence. The lack of forced entry pointed towards someone Napier knew, someone he had led into his home, shattering the image of the safe haven he had built for himself. As days turned into weeks, the initial flurry of activity subsided, replaced by a methodical, painstaking search for the missing pieces of the puzzle. The investigation team meticulously reviewed every piece of evidence, every witness statement, every possible scenario, hoping to find a lead, a connection that had been overlooked. The weight of the unsolved case pressed down on them, the knowledge that a killer walked free, a constant shadow over their efforts. The lack of a clear motive hampered their progress. Napier, a well-respected lawyer, was known for his integrity and fairness, both in and out of the courtroom. His personal life seemed equally unremarkable. With no known enemies or scandals, the investigation team delved into his past, scrutinizing his legal cases, his personal relationships, and his financial dealings, searching for any hint of a connection, a grudge, or a motive that could lead them to his killer. The deeper they dug, the more enigmatic the case became, the killer remaining an elusive phantom, a chilling embodiment of the unknown. Forensic science, in its infancy during the initial investigation, offered tantalizing clues but no concrete answers. The murder weapon, presumed to be a blunt object, was never found. Fingerprints collected at the scene belonged to Napier and a few known associates, all of whom were cleared after thorough investigation. The lack of DNA technology at the time limited their ability to analyze trace evidence found at the scene, leaving crucial questions unanswered and the killer's identity shrouded in mystery. The crime scene, however, whispered its own story, a silent narrative of the struggle that had taken place. The overturned furniture, the broken lamp, the scattered books, all pointed towards a violent confrontation. Blood spatter analysis revealed the trajectory of the fatal blow, indicating a struggle, a desperate attempt by Napier to defend himself. The killer, however, had been ruthless and efficient, leaving little to chance, their movements calculated, their intent clear. The lack of a murder weapon was particularly perplexing. The brutality of the crime suggested a weapon of opportunity, something readily available within the house. The investigators carefully cataloged every item in the house, searching for anything that could have been used as a weapon, from fireplace pokers to heavy bookends. Each item was dusted for fingerprints, analyzed for traces of blood, and meticulously documented, but none revealed the smoking gun, the missing link that could connect the killer to the crime. The limited forensic technology of the time served as a constant reminder of the advancements that would come too late for George Napier. DNA analysis, now a cornerstone of criminal investigations, could have unlocked secrets hidden within the trace evidence, potentially revealing the killer's identity. The passage of time, while dimming the hope of finding the perpetrator, also brought with it the promise of new technology, new techniques, and a renewed hope for justice. The case, though cold, held the potential to be solved, the silent witnesses waiting patiently for their stories to be told. The murder of George Napier cast a long shadow over Ridgewood. The once peaceful town, known for its close-knit community and tranquil atmosphere, was now shrouded in fear and suspicion. Neighbors, once accustomed to exchanging friendly greetings, now eyed each other with distrust, the unspoken question of who lingering in the air. Fear became a constant companion, seeping into everyday life, transforming the familiar into the unsettling. The unsolved case took a toll on the town's collective psyche. Parents held their children a little closer, their laughter now tinged with anxiety. Doors that were once left unlocked were now bolted shut, the sense of security shattered by the realization that evil could lurk even in the most idyllic of settings. The murder of George Napier served as a chilling reminder that darkness could penetrate even the brightest of communities, leaving an indelible mark on the fabric of their lives. For the law enforcement officers who had worked tirelessly on the case, The lack of closure brought a heavy weight of responsibility and frustration. They carried the burden of the unsolved murder, the faces of Napier's grieving family etched in their minds, a constant reminder of their unfinished business. The case became personal, a challenge to their professional pride, a test of their dedication to upholding justice. They had sworn to protect and serve, to bring criminals to justice, and the unsolved murder of George Napier stood as a stark reminder of their unfulfilled promise. The unsolved case became a part of the town's folklore, a cautionary tale whispered at gatherings, a ghost story told to children to keep them safe. The memory of George Napier, the respected lawyer, the kind neighbor, the victim, lived on, intertwined with the mystery of his unsolved murder. The town, forever changed by the tragedy, learned to cope with the uncertainty, the knowledge that some questions may never be answered, some wounds never fully healed. The weight of the unknown, however, lingered, a constant reminder of the fragility of peace and the enduring power of unanswered questions.